Here are Time's favorite video games of the year. Number 10, Helldivers 2. Gamers killed a lot of bugs earlier this year as Helldivers 2, a cooperative third-person shooter from Arrowhead Game Studios, broke records and servers. A sequel to the 2015 top-down shooter, Helldivers 2 became PlayStation's fastest-selling title of all time, and within a week of its February release, the servers couldn't handle all the new players. The game is a riff on Paul Verhoeven's Starship Troopers, complete with satirical military propaganda, a war against insectoid aliens, and cyborgs. There's not much in terms of story. Gamers play as a shock trooper called a Helldiver and are sent on increasingly difficult operations to collect better weapons, better gear, and more in-game currency to purchase it, so they can defeat a quickly growing number of tougher and tougher enemies. The overwhelming number of enemies led to server overloads, and players who weren't able to get online in time were often quickly outranked and outpowered by other gamers. Despite these frustrations, the game lives up to its core conceit, kill or be killed, and if Helldivers 2 proved anything, it's a lot easier to be killed unless you're willing to sink quite a bit of time into leveling up. Number 9, LEGO Horizon Adventures. Horizon has quickly become one of PlayStation's most popular IPs since releasing in 2017, and the chance to explore that world through the lighthearted lens of LEGO felt like an automatic win. LEGO Horizon Adventures retells the story of Horizon Zero Dawn with all the humor and pop culture references that have made the LEGO Star Wars games such a hit across generations. There's something appealing about the gameplay of T-rated titles, and from first-hand experience, Horizon, with its lush world, robot animals, and Alloy's archer skills, has always had a particular draw. LEGO Horizon Adventures makes good on finding balance, softening the world in its more complicated emotional and narrative themes, while still providing gameplay that is involving and challenging. Plus, there's a cool co-op feature that's beneficial to family-style play. LEGO Horizon Adventures may not be what every gamer is looking for, but for Horizon fans and anyone looking to broaden the interests of a younger gamer in their life, this entry offers plenty to explore. Number 8. Star Wars Outlaws. Massive Entertainment and Ubisoft take gamers to the seedy underside of the galaxy far, far away, where they play as Kay Vess, a thief and scoundrel with a heart of pyrite who is looking to escape the Outer Rim and start a new life on one of the core worlds. Set between the events of The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, Star Wars Outlaws is a third-person action-adventure game featuring shootouts, heists, lockpicking, speeder races, gambling, and double crosses. While nothing competes with the thrill of being a Jedi, Outlaws offers a wholly new experience in the Star Wars universe, as Kay is forced to join different crime factions to gain allies, get favors, and walk away alive to collect party members to pull off the biggest heist of her life. While the game had some frustrating bugs upon release, they've since been patched, making for a smoother and more thrilling experience. Whether players choose to gun blasters blazing or employ stealth tactics, Outlaws rewards their playstyle, offering blaster and gear upgrades that work best with their choices. There's also plenty to explore, from seeing a few familiar faces to finding parts to upgrade Kay's ship, speeder, and blaster. The very nature of gameplay gives back what you put into it. But if checking out every local cantina and helping pay off the debts of patrons wanted by the Empire is one detour too many, Outlaws also offers a compelling central story about crime and class that creates hope for more Kay Vess in the future, in any medium. Number 7. Black Myth Wukong. Game Science's Black Myth Wukong made history as the first AAA game in the Chinese video game industry, which has historically developed mobile games instead of console games. Earning rave reviews, Black Myth Wukong is inspired by Wu Chang'an's novel Journey to the West. Gamers play as the Destined One, an anthropomorphic monkey believed to be the reincarnation of Sun Wukong, the Monkey King, as he travels to the mountains to fulfill his destiny, facing a myriad of Chinese spirits and mythological beings along the way. The game undoubtedly has the best art design of the year, filled with gorgeous detailed scenes of forests, temples, and mountains. The interpretation of mythological beings matched the God of War franchise in its bold and occasionally horrifying imagination. While some gamers have cited a lack of familiarity with the novel as a hindrance to understanding the narrative, the game does a good job of filling in details and providing a detailed glossary. It is easy to see why it will be many people's game of the year. However, the combat is challenging, so punishing that at a certain point it stopped being fun and never quite gave way to feeling instinctual. Even with all the charms picked up along the way, the many obstacles consistently felt more powerful than the Destined One. Your mileage may vary, and there's no doubt plenty to love about Black Myth Wukong, but when we're talking about hours put into trying to defeat the same boss over and over, this monkey's gone to heaven a few times too many. Number 6, Alan Wake 2, Night Springs and the Lake House. Time's 2023 Game of the Year pick Alan Wake 2 returned with more mysteries to solve this year with 2 expansions, Night Springs and the Lake House, totaling around 4 hours of new gameplay. Remedy Entertainment's first DLC release, Night Springs, contains 3 self-contained episodic narratives that exist within the fictional Twilight Zone-inspired series, Night Springs, and features parallels of the familiar characters we met in Alan Wake 2 as they traverse their private nightmares, which become increasingly surreal and meta. The second DLC, The Lake House, continues to thread the connection between Alan Wake and Remedy's other franchise, Control. In this installment, players take control of the FBC, Federal Bureau of Control, agent Kyrian Estevez as she explores the FBC site, The Lake House, and finds horrors within, along with clues and emails that lead her towards a volatile shape-shifting entity. Both DLCs offer up the same kind of cold dread that Alan Wake 2 offered and continue to showcase game creator and director Sam Lake's exploration of what video games are capable of narratively and how far players are willing to follow him down the rabbit hole. When it came to indie games this year, Nomada studio and publisher Devolver Digital made quite an impact with their beautifully rendered side-scroller, Neva. The game follows a young woman, Alba, who travels with her wolf companion, Neva, over 4 seasons across a fantasy land where they fight off a growing darkness that is manifested in the form of monstrous creatures. As the player progresses through each season, Neva grows from cub to adult wolf, which changes the pair's dynamic and their emotional bond matures. The game is dialogue-free, and the only words come from Alba saying, Neva. The lack of dialogue serves to highlight the emotionally moving score by Berlinist. Simple combat and puzzle solving takes on a new sense of grandeur through Neva's animated visuals. Inspired by Hayao Miyazaki's Princess Mononoke, a side-scroller hasn't felt this fresh in a long while. Number 4, Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 2 faced an uphill battle since its announcement in 2022. And yet, Silent Hill 2 was one of the year's biggest surprises, managing to stay true to the same haunting atmosphere of the original while updating the gameplay for a generation of horror gamers more familiar with the current Resident Evil remakes and contemporary entries than a fixed camera of Silent Hill's past iterations. While the overall narrative of the original game, in which James Sunderland returns to Silent Hill after receiving a letter from his deceased wife Mary, who tells him she's waiting there, remains largely the same, this one adds new wrinkles and locations to create an entirely different experience. No matter how many times a player has trod through the foggy streets of Silent Hill, the town is never anything less than unnerving, with original composer Akira Yamaoka returning and an excellent sound design that crawls inside your head. Silent Hill 2 is a perfect showcase of respect for the past through the capabilities of the current generation of gaming systems. The second installment of Square Enix's ambitious 3-part remake of Final Fantasy VII immediately follows Final Fantasy VII Remake and picks up with Cloud Strife and the eco-terrorist group Avalanche as they take on Shinra Power Company that's draining the planet's life energy. But Shinra has an ace up their sleeve. Their soldier Sephiroth, long thought dead, is alive and intent on achieving godhood. Much like Remake and the 97 original, there's a lot of lore involved in the narrative, and while the combat is fast-paced and responsive and a nice switch-up from the command inputs of the original game, Rebirth does require patience. Newcomers to the franchise may be surprised by the number of cutscenes and dialogue-heavy encounters, but they all serve to make the world richer. The benefit of splitting a single narrative into a trilogy allows for a greater depth of character and emotional connection. As fun as it is to take on enemies with Cloud's Buster Swords, some of the best moments are found in the interactions shared with companions, which are rewarding for newcomers and fans of the original alike. One of the added features of Rebirth compared to Remake is an expanded open world, allowing for a lot more side quests and interactions. Simply put, the game is massive and can feel overwhelmingly so. But once you find a groove, these additional narratives deepen the world and its citizens, which makes Cloud and Avalanche's plight feel all the more crucial. There's little doubt that Square Enix will pull out all the stops for the final entry, which will make the Final Fantasy VII trilogy go down as one of the all-time great game sagas. Number 2, Astrobot. Hands down, the most fun gaming experience of the year is Astrobot. Team Asobi puts the PlayStation mascot Astrobot, who gamers could previously play as an Astrobot's Rescue Mission and Astro's Playroom, into a full game. Making use of all the PS5 controller has to offer in terms of movement, dexterity, and sound, Astrobot makes sure no button goes unused, as players take Astrobot from world to world to rescue bots from his crashed ship in 4 different galaxies and 90 planets that offer different and increasingly difficult experiences and variety of terrains and enemy types. A number of these worlds are inspired by classic video games and iconic PlayStation titles like Uncharted, God of War, and Horizon, with plenty of Easter eggs and nods to PlayStation's history scattered across the worlds. Astrobot is a big win for PlayStation's renewed investment in family games. It's a great way to allow new gamers to get a sense of the controllers, but it's also challenging enough for all parties to feel a sense of achievement over completing a planet. With extremely creative gameplay, even the end credits offer a fun experience, and an earworm of a soundtrack by Kenneth C.M. Young, Astrobot is a grand celebration of PlayStation's 30-year history. Number 1. Dragon Age: The Veilguard. Between Elder Scrolls and Baldur's Gate 3, there's been no shortage of great high fantasy RPGs to play. It has been a decade since Dragon Age Inquisition, and despite an incredible run for developer BioWare, their last decade was marred by the cancelled game Shadow Realms, the disappointing Mass Effect Andromeda, and a disastrous foray into MMOs with Anthem. This was reason to wonder if BioWare still had the sauce to return to Dragon Age. Boy, did they ever. Dragon Age: The Veilguard comes out swinging, and BioWare clearly had something to prove. Narratively, the game takes place a decade after the events of Inquisition, and immediately follows up on the post-credit scene of that game, which sees former companion Solus revealed to be the elven god of betrayal, attempt to tear down the Veil, a magical barrier that separates mortals from the demon realm. The action begins quickly, and players familiar with the franchise will quickly find themselves impressed by the combat and traversal features, which are best seen in the Dragon Age games. The same goes for the impressive details that create a sense of awe and feel visually distinct in an era where gamers have their pick of visually impressive fantasy. But this is BioWare, of course, and the real treat is in the journey, which is nothing without the bonds formed with your companions. Of the 6 available companions, each offers a unique skill set and personality, and unlike previous games in the series, going for the seemingly agreeable response in the dialogue trees won't always grant players the response they wish. There is greater attention to character traits here, which makes the connection all the more exciting because it isn't simply a game about playing nice. Additionally, the portals are a welcome travel feature, as is the ability to access companions' special power sets from an open menu. While some may miss the more politically charged narrative of its predecessor, The Veilguard feels like a refreshing addition to the series that's still heavy on lore, but doesn't feel too dense to distract from the pure pleasure of killing demons. If there's a single word to describe Dragon Age: The Veilguard that signifies its place as Time's Game of the Year, it would be fulfilling.